we don't want to waste any more time this morning. We're going to jump right into Q&A. So for people who have questions about the grant program, you can put your hand up by going to the reactions feature. You just go to reactions and click that, and then go to raise hand, and it will raise your hand so that you can ask your question about the grant. And if you don't want to raise your hand and ask it on mic, you can also put your question in the chat. And then today we will just stay on until all the questions are answered. It's important for you to note that we cannot give you, Michael, can you go back one slide? I think is the how we can and how we can't help. Here's how we can help on today's call. We can give and answer informational questions about the grant. So, any questions like informational level 1, how, what, all of that. We can introduce producers and school support organizations. So if you're looking for an introduction, although this late in the game, that might be tough. And then we can provide technical support for the online application portal on WiseHive. So if you are having a hard time on WiseHive, then we can walk you through that. What we're not able to do is to provide specific feedback on grant projects and ideas. So if you ask us like, would it be better if we did this or if we did that? Then we're just going to hand you the scorecard and say, you decide. And we cannot assist with the writing of the grant application. So we can't go through and write it for you. All right, and then we're going to go into the questions here. I'll introduce myself too. I'm Nick Anisich. I'm the Farm to School Program Manager at CDFA. And then helping us on the call today and organizing all of these calls is Amy Garfinkel from our Farm to School team, Rachel Finkus from our Farm to School team, and Michael Ackley Grady from our Farm to School team. So we got all of us here to help out today on this application due date. All right, so I see one question in the chat came in from Melissa, and then Meredith, I see your hand. So we're going to start with Melissa Brooks's question in the chat. And Amy has responded to it there. Perfect. What's the definition of community eligibility? So this is a great question. It has to do with school nutrition programs. So CEP provides school nutrition program sponsors an alternative method for claiming student meals in high poverty schools. More information about CEP can be found on the Department of Education's website, which is in the chat. CEP is a way to identify need in a community. So that's one of the reasons why we ask for that information. All right, and then we're going to Meredith. Hi, Meredith.
Hi, Nick. On a previous webinar, you had said you would get me contact information for the people at LAUSD Nutrition Services.
Oh yeah, let me send that over.
Yeah, it's too late now for the grant, but I'd really like to have it for. So if I put my email in, send it to you in the chat. Can you send that over after you get through all this chaos that is today?
Thank you. Yeah, of course we can.
And shoot me anybody else's contact information that you think would be helpful. That would be great.
Yeah, of course. All right. Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you.
All right, Rob, you have the next hand on the list.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Nick, and team for putting this on. I just had a quick question. So I have two producers who are neighbors. Their properties are adjacent to each other. They are both interested in pursuing this grant as individual producers. They're friends, but their applications are very similar. Is there anything that I should do or any in that last comment section where you can add additional information to make that distinction or provide greater context? Because I imagine that there might be questions about that.
Just because they're the applications are so similar, you feel?
Yes, they both will be producing greenhouse vegetables and providing them to the same school.
This is such a good question. I think definitely you can put it in that other, in that last question on the application, you can just note it.
Okay.
You definitely understand that schools, it takes more than one farm to supply a school. So I think that's something that's built in. And Amy, is there anything else that you would want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect place to kind of share about those circumstances is in that additional info question.
Yeah, and then we'll just see how the applications all break out on, scoring and everything because they are so similar. So we'll just have to see once we score them all.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then we're going to the next hand on here is Trish. Hi, Trish, you can unmute, and then we're happy to take your question.
Okay, great. My question was, I am having an issue with the Excel part for the budget.
Yeah.
Can I just like do a handwriting of that, or do I have to actually use the template that's provided?
This is a good question. Amy, what do you think? If it's a tech issue, what can we do?
Hi, Trish. I'm sorry about those challenges you're experiencing with the worksheet. Is it that you would prefer a different program other than Excel, or is it that Excel is fine, but something about the worksheet isn't working?
Well, you know, it's really just me. I'm not a technical person, so I'm, you know, I can bring up the template, and I'm trying to, and I'm not sure, and I'm so embarrassed to be admitting all this. If this means like, if I meant to just like click on it with my fingers and it'll let me write in it, but it's not. And this is like my last piece, and I know what the budget is, but I guess I just want to know if I could just like handwrite this out using your format. Would that be okay?
I think because we do ask that people use the template, but totally understand about the technical difficulties. So one thing we could do is we can try sending it to you in a different format,
Okay.
like in Google Sheets.
Okay.
And then you can see if that format works out. So we can send that to you after this call.
Okay.
And then if not, please, when we send it to you, we'll send it to you from our email inbox. So you can just reply to that if you're still having challenges with it.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. Amy, is it something too that they download it, they fill it out, and then they upload it, right? So that would be the other thing where if you did, like if that still didn't work and you wanted to print it out and handwrite it and scan it and upload that, I think as long as it's readable, you could do that as well. It just provides us all of the information in a way that helps simplify the agreement afterwards. Sure. So if that's the other option, then I think that would be okay too. Just make sure that it's something that's really legible so that we can track it.
Okay, I will try and do that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can print it, I think. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that's all the hands that I see on our faces list, in our faces. So I'm going to go back to the chat now. So we have the CEP question, and then Melissa had a follow-up of, so does that mean that if the schools are participating in the free and reduced meal program, only up to 5 nutrition programs, then they're eligible? So for CEP, it's something that the school district applies through the Department of Education. And so what we're asking in the application is just, are those schools operating CEP? If you want more information about like how to apply and become a community eligibility provision site, then we can connect you to the Department of Education. But yeah, otherwise I think you can just reflect that on the app, just how many they currently have. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to go back through here. I see Lisa Kelly. Hi, Lisa has the next question on here. So regarding item 7, does this question pertain? This is in track 2. So I'm going to give time for Amy to pull it up. Track 2, question 7. Does this question pertain to relationships among partners, or only the relation of the lead organization to the project partners? Then handing it to Amy.
Thanks, Nick. Hi, Lisa. Nice to have you on again. So that's a great question. In number 7 of the Track 2 application, it's asking you to describe how your project partnership has collaborated on farm to school projects in the past, or on related projects if new to farm to school. So it is asking about your project partnership as a whole. So the project partners that you enter and describe in question number 6, then question number 7 is asking about the history of the relationship between all of those partners.
Yeah, and I think if there's parts of it where certain partners were working together, you can outline that. And then another part where certain partners were working together, you could communicate that, but then also talk about it holistically, just to paint that big picture. Because sometimes things start small, where there's 3 partners that really work together, and now they're expanding to 5 because this funding is available. So you would talk about how those 3 work together and now how these 5 are going to work together. So it's just to show that there's a relationship in place, that there is some past success to build on, or that there is real trusting relationships that are now going to expand or begin because of the grant.
Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah, of course. Okay, and then the next question I see on here is from Lauren Crone. Hi, Lauren. Oh, that's just about the Excel template. Yep. Okay, and then
There was another one
Oh,
from
yeah?
Lisa too, about, she says, I have county offices of education and school districts as distinct partners in the same county. One is an implementing partner and one is a supporting partner. Is this allowed? Yes, in track 2, you can definitely have project partners from within the same county. And so public school districts would be farm to school implementing organization partners. And then for county offices of education, depending on their role in the project, you can identify them as a farm to school support org or a farm to school implementing org, just not both. But yes, partners from the same county, totally allowable in track 2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and now to Mama Tati's question, a minor formatting question. In the track 3 application, questions 10F through J do not allow decimals. Our values for a couple of these questions are slightly above a rounded number, like 50.17, which the scoring criteria indicates would qualify us for an additional point. We would typically round down in these situations, but doing so would result in losing a point where they would otherwise be eligible. So are they okay for rounding up in that scenario? Amy?
That is a great question, and thanks for letting us know about that in the application. That might be one that we need to chat about just quickly as a team after this call and get back to you over email. That hasn't come up yet in this application period, so thanks so much for bringing it up, and we'll make sure to get back to you over email today after this call.
Yeah, thank you. This WISE type stuff, it's so interesting to see where the portal is helpful in so many ways, and also like, oh, okay, let's fix that. All right, and then Lauren, for the next question, grant question, in regards to the budget worksheet, could you please explain the difference under spending category 3 for salaries, wages, stipends versus fringe benefits? I always hand these ones to Amy.
Hi, Lauren. Glad you could join us again. So yes, so in spending category 3, say you're proposing in your budget a farm to school staff person as part of your project, then in the first part where it says salaries, wages, and stipends, that's where you would propose how much you're wanting to pay them through the grant funds. So if you're planning on paying them through a salary, you would, propose the salary. If it's going to be maybe more of an hourly position, then you would put the hourly wages. And sometimes also we've seen stipends. So say, this person is going to get paid a certain amount per semester or per month or something like that. So that would go in the first part. And then for fringe benefits, that's like up to you if you want to include that too, depending on your, internal procedures and processes and stuff. But that is allowable to include fringe benefits. So that would be, the benefits that your organization offers to employees, depending on if they're salaried or hourly or with stipend. And that we ask for that to be calculated as a percentage of what they're getting paid, I believe, in the section above. So yeah, that's the distinction between those two.
Okay, so can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I moved. I was in my cubicle, which is why I typed it, but I moved to a private place.
Yes.
So I just don't think I'm doing this part right. So I'm trying to account for a percentage or a portion of someone's salary. So if I anticipate someone who's salaried works 50 hours over the whole course of the project on this, and I've calculated, I've kind of converted it to an hourly and said what that total amount required would be. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know if I'm filling it out in the right section or filling it out correctly based on that. So, I mean, would it be correct to say staff type would be salary and number of hours would be 100% FTE?
Yeah, if this person works full time and you're proposing that the grant funds would cover their entire salary for the period of the grant term, then yeah, it would make sense to say 100% FTE or 1 FTE.
Okay, because it's not,
yeah.
it wouldn't cover the whole salary. It would cover like $2,400 worth of their salary.
Okay.
So let's just say this person makes, you know, 100,000 in a year. And I'm saying that they work like 50 hours of the whole year of the total, you know, 2080. I don't know, I'm saying that's 2,400, but I don't know how to translate that on there, I guess.
I see. Yeah. So you would do your best to calculate what's the percentage of 50 hours divided by the total number of hours they work in a year, if it's going to be 50 hours in a year. So and then whatever that percentage is would be the FTE. So
okay.
and you could write it as a percentage or as a decimal, like point whatever FTE.
Okay. So
yeah.
under number of hours or percent FTE on that, I'd put, you know, whatever 50 over 2080 is.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the dollar amount required column, you would just put the, I think you said it was 2,400, the amount that you're proposing that the grant would cover for those hours.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And then, well, I don't know if you want, I had a second question that I
Yeah, we
typed
can
in.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was my second question? It was, so it was, okay. So if I have, you know, other costs that I anticipate, but it doesn't, so the grant, the budget page requests that the grant total must match the proposed awarded amount. And since I can't exceed the 150,000 based on our school size and everything, but we, you know, I might have an additional, do I just leave it out and assume that we're going to take on that cost? Like, for example, labor. So I anticipate, you know, I mean, if there's a couple other things, is it okay if I just leave it out, I guess is what I'm asking?
That's a great question. Yeah. So if your total project cost to implement the project you're proposing is going to exceed the amount that you're eligible to request, then yeah, you should not include that in the budget worksheet. The budget worksheet should only include the costs that you're proposing that the grant would cover.
Okay.
But you can, in that additional information question at the very bottom of the application, that's totally optional and it doesn't impact your score. That question could be a good place to share, like, oh, our project is actually going to cost a little bit more, and you know, this is why, and this is, you know, our plan.
Okay.
If we want to cover it or stuff like that. But yeah, the budget worksheet itself should only include the costs that you're proposing the grant would cover.
Okay. And then I just have one more quick question. I don't know why I'm hung up on this one. It's only 4 points, but for the for the diversity, equity, and inclusion section, could you just explain it a little more of what, because it's the question and the criteria for scoring is a little vague, and I guess I'm just worried about using language that would not be totally appropriate, or I don't know. I just want to make sure I'm within the ballpark.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is a new addition to the application. So it's pretty broad on purpose because it's open to interpretation in terms of how each organization kind of interprets and you know, implements diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. So you can, you know, just like Google around for definitions of diversity, equity, inclusion. If there's like an office or staff members in your organization who work on this types of thing, they might, you know, have answers for you. And in terms of the review criteria, one of the main things we're looking at is that it's not just an applicant saying, yes, we agree and strongly believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. It's looking at the how. So, you know, how are you implementing that and showing that it's important, rather than just the why, which is also important, but the review criteria is looking at the how.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's helpful. I think I'm done. I just think I'm overanalyzing it at this point.
Oh yeah, it's hard.
We're right there with you.
It just seemed too good to be true because I only started a week ago because I didn't know about it beforehand. So
yeah, I'm writing that down. Right. Too good to be true. Right.
Yeah.
That's going on our we're doing good.
right. Well, thanks, guys. I'm going to hop off. I appreciate it. And good luck to everyone else applying. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you, Lauren.
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, the next question in the chat I have here is from Melissa, and it's on partner letters. And this is something we've gotten a lot of questions about, of who needs to upload a letter and what does that letter need to say. And of course, I'm going to hand it to Amy because she's answered all of these all along the way. Okay, so I'm confused about the difference between partners and implementers. You ask us to upload letters of support for the two different categories in track 2.
Yes. Hi, Melissa. That's a really great question. So in track 2, at the very bottom, it does ask for these two different types of letters of support. So question 30 is asking applicants to upload a letter of support from the School Nutrition Services Director or equivalent district-wide / organization-wide decision maker who oversees and coordinates the school meal program at each farm-to-school implementing organization in your project partnership. So that's referring back to question 6. Each farm-to-school implementing organization that you list as part of your project partnership, which can be a public school district, a county office of ed, or a directly funded charter school. Then in this question 30, you would need to upload a letter of support from that School Nutrition Services Director person at each implementing org for your application. The exception is if a School Nutrition Services Director from one of your farm-to-school implementing orgs is the one actually writing the application, then that specific person would not need to upload a letter of support, but the School Nutrition Services Directors from the other implementing orgs in your partnership would still need to. So that's question 30. And then question 31 is letters of support from supporting project partners. So this is also going back to question 6, and any supporting project partners other than farm-to-school implementing orgs, you would also need to upload letters of support from them. So say there's a nonprofit organization that's listed as a supporting project partner in question 6 for your proposed project, then in question 31, you would need to upload a letter of support from them. And the lead applicant does not need to submit a letter of support.
All right, so that clarifies it. Our partners, our implementing partners are the schools, districts, and the schools. We are also the implementing partner on their campuses. And then the partners are a couple of farms and farmers market. Is that correct then?
So your organization as the one applying is a school district, county office of ed, or directly funded charter school?
We're a nonprofit that serves the school districts because we run the garden programs in the school districts. So we have 31 schools. Our 3 partners are the 3 school districts. So throughout North County. So the partners that we have, now I know where to put the letters. I just was wondering technically, where do I put the letters? Because the partners are the farmers markets and a specific farm.
Great. Okay. I'm so glad you explained the partnership. That's really helpful. So first, yes, your organization as a nonprofit is totally eligible to apply, and you would be categorized as a farm to school support organization. And then the 3 school districts that you're working with as partners would be farm to school implementing organizations if they're public school districts. So you would need a letter of support from each of them, from their School Nutrition Services Director. Yeah, in question 30. And then in question 31, your nonprofit would not need to submit a letter of support, but the farmers market and the other partner, the farmer you mentioned, if they're listed as supporting project partners, yes. Perfect.
That's how I understood it. And that's how
Great. Oh, good.
We love that. And we're real human beings reading it too. So as long as they're all there, we'll put them in the right bucket. You know what I mean? Like, do your best. But also, we just want to, because what's happened in other programs at CDFA is sometimes a nonprofit organization or community group or school gets listed as a partner and they don't know. They weren't on board. So we require the letters so that we can ensure that every partner who's listed knows about the opportunity and knows what's coming their way if this project is funded. So that's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then someone on our farm to school team, please go back through the chat, make sure I'm not missing any. The next question I see is from Samantha Simone at 11:16 a.m. Is it possible to receive a partial grant reward regardless of what we request? Thanks. yes, it's possible to receive a partial grant award. We won't know until we see what all the applications are submitted and how they're scored and all of that. If that's the case, then it's possible that we might offer something less than what you applied for. So that's a possibility. We did not do that last year in last year's rounds. Who knows how related the two will be this year. Amy, anything to add to that one?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, there we go. All right, so then the next question I'm going to is from 1120 from Amama Tati again. Thank you so much for sending these really detailed questions. It makes it easier actually to answer them, so thank you. We are a multi-site preschool center who has partnered with another entity that will help us with outreach to other ECE providers. Would it be okay to upload this partner entity's letter of support under the ECE provider partner section, or should we upload this under additional letters of support section? Amy? I have my idea, but I go to Amy 90%.
Yeah, this is a great question. So if you are applying as a multi-site childcare center to track 3, and you're going to be through your project serving another ECE provider or other ECE providers, you could upload letters of support from them under the ECE provider partner section. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, and then I missed some from Lisa, but there's only one more, and then we'll get to Lisa, and then we can probably put it off camera. Okay, so next I see is from Nancy. So after the award, can we set up an application process for our schools to apply for our project items, such as field trip application or an application for a vertical garden, as a means of implementing the grant awards and determining which schools to work with? So like a mini grant program is kind of how we've been describing that. That is an allowable cost to set it up. And then there's just certain details that you'll have to follow and track as you're implementing that. And I'm going to hand to Amy to kind of talk through some of that tracking and details.
Thanks, Nick. Hi, Nancy. Yes, so like Nick said, mini grants are an allowable cost in all 4 funding tracks. So if you look at the budget worksheet in the spending category toward the bottom called Other Costs, it says, please note that grant recipients distributing funds via mini grants must ensure that mini grant recipients follow all allowable and unallowable cost parameters of this program, as well as financial reporting requirements such as documenting how they used the funds. So that's what Nick was referring to about the different requirements that a mini grant recipient would need to comply with, and that the grant recipient would need to ensure that the mini grantee is complying with. So in terms of the allowable and unallowable costs, that's all starting on page 20 in the RFA, it lists out the allowable and unallowable costs for each funding track. And so that would just apply to those mini grantees. And then also in the budget worksheet under other costs, it asks about the reasoning. So it asks you to describe each other cost listed above and how each is related to the implementation of the project. And specifically for mini grants, it asks you to please describe your intended methodology for awarding and distributing mini grants, as well as the purpose of those mini grants and how recipients will use them. So that's where you would describe, say you're going to have this be an application process, and so you would describe that process and your methodology for implementing all of that, and then how the mini grant recipients would be using those mini grant funds.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Nancy, for joining in. I always love to see if anybody is on this call and wants inspiration for Farm to School. You have to go to the LAUSD Unified Nutrition Services Instagram and social media. The food they're serving looks incredible and can keep you inspired. So please check that out. Okay, and now we're going to go to Lisa. Lisa, if you can come off camera, you got some questions here for us. Shout them out. Just talk.
Okay. So on 12J, before I read it all the way to the end of the sentence that had the word percentage in parentheses, I had put down a raw number, but then I noticed it said percentage, and I thought, I hope I'm reading that right, because obviously a percentage and a raw number looks better. Percentage looks like a low raw number. So I wanted to make sure it is indeed a percentage that is needed there, because there was no percentage sign. You couldn't put it. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a percentage. So
Okay.
when we're reviewing applications, we'll be interpreting 12J in the track 2 application as a percentage. Yeah, good question.
Phew. And then my other question, I have two more, and one is a follow-up on the letters. But the first one was on 12. I'll scroll up. It was earlier in my questions. Okay.
Which will be
Yes. What did I ask you about E? Oh, oh my goodness, where is it? You saw it?
okay, let me see it. There's one for item 12F on the application form. If a school gets meals from NSD but doesn't have a cafeteria, can I count that site in 12F?
In other words, we have a school. It's a charter it's directly funded, but it gets it's small, doesn't have an institutional kitchen, receives or a cafeteria, and gets its meals delivered via the Unified School District. And I wanted to know in 12F, would I count a 1 there because it is a school food service site? It receives food, but doesn't have a cafeteria.
I think yes.
Yeah, and the other thing too is those questions in the track 2 application 12E and F that are asking for current number of school sites and current number of school food service sites in the organization. They're not scored, they're just required so that we can learn more about the organization. So the way you answer won't impact your score, but so they are a little bit open to interpretation. And if you, if the situation is a bit complex, then you're welcome to kind of further explain and contextualize how you respond to questions like 12E and F in that last question that asks for additional info.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's terrific. That's what I thought. And also the charter school is going to be moving into its new site. They just built a new school, and it's reducing from 3 locations to 1. So I made it 1 because in August it will be 1, and that's when the grants are reviewed. So is that appropriate?
Yeah, I think again, it's open to your interpretation for those questions that that aren't scored, but it's just about learning more about the organization. And then anything like that, because every situation is so unique and different, and there's a lot for us to learn. So it is helpful for us to learn. If there's more you want to share in that optional question at the end, you're welcome to, but it's not required. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I promise my last question. Promise. To follow up on those letters of support in our organizations or our schools, my implementing schools, our food service director is often an administrator because we're very small districts. We're all small. And how might I clarify that those letters that are from administrators are also letters of support from food service directors? They go by their biggest title, which of course would be superintendent or principal, but they act as that food service administrator.
I think you can outline that in a couple places. One, you could do it in project partners if their name is listed in that section.
Okay.
And then you could also put it in the other section at the very end where it's like, is there anything else you want to tell us? You can say these big wigs with their fancy titles are also the school nutrition people.
Okay.
And then you can also put it in the letter if you're drafting it with them, and you can share it in that letter that says, I'm the superintendent and I also am the decision maker for school nutrition. And because this is again the same thing as, we want the schools to be aware that they are part of the project. We don't want there to be internal obstacles to completing the work. So that's why those letter of supports are included, so that we know, okay, the person who's deciding on procurement is on board with this and wants to do this, because we know farm to school can be extra work. So we just want to make sure that those barriers aren't in place for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Melissa on, is there a way to see if a school district partner has community eligibility status? Amy, do you know if there's a place online where all the CEP sites are listed, or is that something you have to ask the directors?
Not that I have found. If anyone knows of a public online way to find that, please let us know. That would be wonderful. But yeah, our recommendation is typically to reach out to that partner themselves and ask.
There is a directory. I used it. Now I got to find it again.
If you could put it in the chat, Lisa, if you're able to
Sure.
find it, that would be great. Typically, what we found is a quick call to a nutrition director, and you go, how many sites are there? What programs are you operating? How many kids? How many meals? And there's like, so even at big sites, even at small sites, those are kind of some of their standard data points. So if you're able to send a quick note, do it. And then if Lisa finds this, she'll add it.
Yeah, the only issue is today is the day that so I mean, I have been in communication with them, but some of them are out of town and
Yeah.
concerned about them getting back to us. So Lisa, if you do have the website, that would be so helpful. Thank you.
I'm looking for it. I was on it quite a bit. Okay, I found it. I'll put that link in chat.
Okay, we'll see if that one has it. Thank you.
Because I just got the definition for it. I couldn't find it anywhere in your instructions. So maybe for the future, you could include that in your instructions and more of a definition for what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that's the right one. Oh, this might not be the directory. Hang on, guys. I'm sorry. This
That's okay.
is on the CD.
Well,
I'll find the directory. It's in there.
Yeah, we'll monitor it. We'll monitor it. Okay, and then the next question in the chat is from Yuritsi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you so much for this question. I'm providing support to someone who's applying for this grant for the first time in track 4. They're very nervous about how accurate the budget portion should be, as well as general apprehension about hitting those targeted points. When reviewing these applications, will the reviewers take into consideration that some of these applicants come from an underserved background and may not have the vocabulary, time, experience when it comes to applying to these bigger grants? Thank you. First is on how we are scoring and interpreting, and will we take into consideration that people come from underserved backgrounds and have different experiences? Yes, of course, we're taking that into account, and we're going to do our best to make sure that the application is scored consistently with the others. If you feel like it's something that's really important, that this is flagged so that every reviewer we have, we're going to train them, but also that you're feeling like you want to make sure that they're mindfully reading this and staying open. I think it's something you could also put in the, is there other information that you would like us to know section? You could say that this is the first time applying for a grant, and explain any other factors that you would want to include in there. And then Amy, in specific for how detailed we should be in the budget, can you talk that through? Typically what I've been saying is get it as close as you can to what you think will be right, following the template. We don't need line by line, here's how much a shovel costs, here's how much 20 feet of drip irrigation costs, because those things change over time. But if you follow the template and get as close as you can, then we can use that to score and review the application. And then we work with you to finalize the budget during the grant agreements process if your project is selected. There's also opportunities throughout the duration of the grant program to revise your budget. So if something big changes, you need to make a revision, you could do that. You can also work with us on scope of work revisions if something that you laid out then doesn't work later. So we are really collaborative in that space, and we know, especially for farmers, that grants are hard. And then Amy, specifically on the budget, is there anything else that you would want to add?
Sure. Yeah, just one thing about the scoring for the budget section. So in track 4, it's up to 8 points if the applicant's budget clearly aligns with the project description section. So that's the first thing, the major thing when completing the budget. The second thing is if the applicant includes all requested information for each line item. So that's, like Nick was saying, just following that budget worksheet, and anything that is required when they're filling it out and that's not marked as optional, they should do their best to fill out that section so that it's complete. And then the third thing to receive up to 8 points is that the applicant provides clear reasonings for each spending category. So that's also in the budget worksheet. There's that little paragraph section beneath each spending category where the applicant is proposing funds, and just following those instructions to do their best to explain what the costs are and how they're related to the implementation of the project. And the other big thing just generally is to make sure that the costs are allowable. But yeah, that's what the review criteria specifically will be looking at for the budget.
Mhm. And in that explanation category, it doesn't have to be long and complex. If your goal is to increase production for the school and you're buying seed trays, then we know these are to increase production for the school. And that's, you can be really clear and short like that. I think especially on track 4 in the producer side, that things are, there's not a lot of connecting the dots that typically we need to do. So just do as best as you can. Okay. Thank you. And if there's other questions that you have, please, keep them going in the chat. And of course, I missed one more. So we're going back to Ricky's question. Hi, Ricky. Thank you so much for joining us. You are asking about question 10G. You're unable to add 3 different figures. Can you tell us which grant track that is in? You can do it in the chat or you can come off mute, whichever you would prefer.
It's for track 3.
Yeah, track 3.
Sure. Hi, Ricky. Thanks so much for that question. So 10G is asking for that unduplicated people count. And if your project will serve multiple counties, which I assume is the case you're in.
I'm just trying to add, there's 3 questions. The unduplicated number of children that are eligible for free and reduced. And then the second question is English learners and foster youth. So each of those is 3 different percentages.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So that percentage, if you go to that linked website, eddata.org, and search for the county that your project will serve, it's
I got the percentages. I just don't know how to enter them.
Okay, it should be one data point. There's one table that is called unduplicated people count of free reduced English learners and foster youth. And if you click the percent button and then go to the 2019 to 20 year in the table, it should show you 1% for that combined data.
So you're looking for children who are in foster care, English learners, and are eligible for free reduced price, not 3 separate ones?
I believe it's like 1% that I believe is combining those. So it's not necessarily that a student is all 3 of those things, but it's I think it's adding those together into 1%.
Yeah, it's the unduplicated pupil count. So it just takes all of them and it puts them into one number if they check any of those boxes.
Okay, I'll look for it. I guess I found the 3 different tables, one for foster, one for free and reduced.
There's those too.
Yeah, okay. So there should be one that combines the one in the individuals to check one of those boxes. What is the percentage, or would it be the sum?
It should just show you 1% for that. It's that it's the name of the table is the name of the question basically, and then it should have 1% for 2019 to 20.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, let us know if it doesn't work.
Email us. We're monitoring that inbox all day to CA Farm to School. Michael, if you go to the next slide too, it has it CA Farm to School at cdfa.ca.gov. And we will, that email question there. We're just monitoring that all day long today. So if you're not having it, we can screenshot it and send it to you too. Okay, and then let me go back here. Let's see. Okay, Amama Tati, thank you so much for sticking around. Final question. Would you happen to have an update on how many applicants you have in total and for each of the tracks? Sure. I just asked that this morning of Amy, and she sent it to me. Right now, there are 122 applications submitted, which is a great number. I think that's good. 122, we like that. And then there's 56 so far in track 1, 24 so far in track 2, 11 so far in track 3, and 31 so far in track 4. These numbers I would take with an ultimate grain of salt, knowing that they might have changed from 1 hour ago as people are submitting tons and tons of info today on the last day. There is $25.5 million to distribute this year. And then next year, we will have around a little bit less than $60 million to distribute. So it's a really exciting time for all of these great applications to be submitted. I don't think you should be intimidated by any of these numbers. I think you should be encouraging and supportive. It should make you feel good. Anything that you're doing this year, if you're not funded, will build towards next year's application process. And also, anytime that a grant program at the state has a lot of applications, it typically means that we can then advocate in future rounds of the budget for even more funding. So it's one of those things where just by submitting the application, you're really showing your commitment to this cause and helping communicate, because we know that sending a big long report to the legislature about how much interest there is in this is great, but being able to show those quantitative data points of like, look how oversubscribed we are, look how much interest there is, look how much excitement, look, even in your own district, we couldn't fund all of these projects. All of those things are really clear points of communication to share with our state leaders that this is an important movement. So there's the update. 122, we're excited to read each and every one of them and go through it. Okay, and then final comment, you've been very patient. Thank you for everything. I'll wait for your email regarding decimal points rounding up before submitting that. Thank you so much. We have been so amazed by how many people are showing up and asking questions. And just like even today, Lisa likes sharing the link to help someone who's applying. It's just the best. So thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Nick?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, I was just in my car and I raced home to get here. So I hope you weren't on that drive with me, but it's my first time applying for a grant and I'm super excited. I have several letters of intent from partners.
Yeah.
How important is it to have every partner submit a letter of intent? I understand your apprehension was saying blindly, yes, those are partners, and then they don't know about it. But it's so last minute. I'm very new at this. I found out about this grant on Thursday. So I've been like,
Yeah, hope you had a good 4th of July. Hope that was stress-free for you. Yeah, so anyone who's listed in your project, you should have a letter of support from them. And that's how we can ensure that they are going to know about it and we can confirm that. Yeah. So, you could adjust the narrative if you don't have a letter from them, is one option, so that you can just go with who you have letters from as long as it would still meet eligibility criteria. I think that's one thing. And then Amy, anything else? Are there any other options?
Hi, Jessica. Is this for track 2?
Hi. Yes, this is for track 2. And one additional comment is I do have a letter, but it is not in the format of the letter of intent, but it is written specifically for this from one of our supervisors, who's my district supervisor.
Okay, cool. So first, the letter of intent template is only for track 4. So if you're applying to track 2 or track 1 or track 3, you don't need to use that letter of intent template. That's only if a food producer is applying to track 4, then they would need that letter of intent using that template from a school nutrition services department. But if you're applying to track 2, then the requirement is like you get to format and have your own letter of support from your partners. The requirement is that it includes, let me make sure I'm getting this right. From your supporting project partners, the letter must include an endorsement of the project and a description of how the partner will support the project. And that's the requirement.
So that's good. You used your own letter. That's fine. We love that. Yeah. And then for the project partners, it's correct, right? Anybody who's listed in the application needs to provide a letter.
Yes. So in track 2, any supporting project partners that you list in question number 6, you would then need a letter of support from them in question 31. And then that's for supporting project partners that are not like school districts or other types of farm to school implementing orgs, because for those types of project partners, farm to school implementing orgs, you upload those letters in question 30 from their school nutrition services director.
Okay. I'm glad you guys have a a webinar today. Okay.
Yeah. And then you asked also a question in the chat on EFT percentage.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And that's for the budget. Is it FTE?
It could be that too.
Yeah, FTE is percentage of full-time employment. So is this person a full-time employee, and how many turn their hours into a percentage?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if they're working half-time, then it's half an FTE, would be 0.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just add on to what Nick said, in terms of it's the percent the percent of their time that they'll be working on the project and being like paid with grant funds. So it could be that they're like a full-time employee at your organization, but then you're just proposing that the grant funds will cover 50% of their time because they'll be spending 50% of their hours on the project.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so everyone, that's all the questions we have. Oh no, there's one more. Is the 25 million evenly divided between the 4 tracks? It is not. We have approximations of how much we think will go to each track, but what we do is we look at each track individually and see how many competitive applications are in each track, and then we'll allocate the funds based on the number of projects in each track. So they're not like, we're not saying, okay, there's 4 million here, 10 million here, 20 million there, whatever. We are going to look at the applications and see how they come in, and then we'll determine it that way. We're projecting to have track 1 have the most awards. We're projecting to have track 2 have like 10 to 15 awards, but honestly, we don't know until we see the applications of where those funds will go. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? You can put it in the chat, you can raise your hand. Whatever you want to do is okay with us. We're really grateful that you're all here today. Okay, Trish, yes.
All right, I'm back again.
How'd it go?
I just sent an email too. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have
No,
my
that's
budget
okay.
like written out, so I'm ready. But when I tried to print it out, it just printed it out on one page, all really tiny, and not enough to fill it. And I'm sure this is probably something that somebody who's in any way tech savvy would be able to figure out, but I'm
I
not.
changed my ink cartridges yesterday in my printer, so I know exactly how you feel.
Right.
It's sitting open here next to me, still not done. So
Yeah.
I think if you're having a really hard time with the template, we'll email you some solutions and see if we can help.
Okay.
But then, worst case scenario, if you're absolutely like down to it and you're like, I just need to upload this thing, then just scan what you wrote and upload it. Like if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. Done is better than perfect. And if what you've written down reflects all the categories that are in the template, then it's just like, it will be less convenient. But I think, you've done your best and we hear you. You've talked to us, you've communicated it. We know you're trying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I emailed what you have up on the site right now to California Farm to School. So.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Right.
Don't get bummed out about it. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thanks for doing this last minute Zoom too. That was really exciting to see in the email box. So thank you.
That was Amy's idea. Amy's always Amy's all
Thanks,
about
Amy.
So thank you, Amy. Yeah, and thank you. Okay, any other questions from people today? Did we miss anything in the chat? You can raise your hand. You can go to reactions and raise hand, or you can put it in the chat. We can hang out another minute or so. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. Otherwise, we are wrapped up for today. Other questions as you're going through, send them to our email inbox, cafarmtoschool@cdfa.ca.gov. We will be monitoring that inbox today and getting back to you absolutely ASAP. It will depend on the flood of questions we get on if we can get back to everyone, but we will do our best. And thank you all for joining. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Rachel, for putting the email in the chat. So if you want to, you can cut and paste that if that's easier.